Okay, welcome everyone to this edition of Meet Your Missionary. And today we're going to be talking to Bill Haig from Hearts with a Mission. This is, as many of you will, if you're in our church, you will know, you may have met Bill when he's come to speak, when we've had some of our local missions in. But hopefully if you're in the Valley, you already know a little bit. If not anything else, you know the name Hearts with a Mission. But today we'd really love to be able to just share with you more detail and why we think this is an important ministry. So Bill, if you could first just introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background on how you came to this particular ministry, that would be great.
Yeah, great. First of all, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity today to share more about our mission here at Hearts with a Mission. It's really interesting the way that I got put together with Hearts with a Mission. Obviously, was a God thing, and my wife and I, we migrated here about approximately 2 years ago now from Southern California. And so in the ministry that I was part of in Southern California, we had a Christian school that was attached to our church. So it was a church that we were part of for 30 years, my wife and I. And the Christian school, both of my kids went to K through 12, and they grew up and went through that school. And for the final 10 years, I worked there on the administrative team as I basically did discipline K through 12. I also taught 11th grade Bible. It was a New Testament survey class, and that was one of my most favorite things to do. And I was also the athletic director at the school, so I wore tons of hats. At the church, the final 15 years that I was there, I was the chairman of the elder board, so we were super plugged into that ministry. It was really difficult. That was one of the most difficult things to do, was we lived in the same home for 35 years. We went to that ministry. We were pretty set in our ways. And then both of my kids moved to Medford. I have two kids. One's 35 and the other one's 32. I have 7 grandchildren between the two of them, and they both moved here. And my wife and I were like, we just can't be this far away from our family. So we decided to pick up and move. The interesting thing is, about 7 years ago, my son happened to be the student ministry pastor at our church in Southern California before he moved here. And he knew a gentleman named Daren Ratcliffe who used to be the shelter coordinator for Hearts with a Mission. And he came down and spoke at our ministry in Southern California. We used to do a spiritual emphasis week at the end of the year to refocus the kids back on reason why we're there and be focused on the gospel. And he came and he was our main speaker for 3 days. And so I got to talk with him while I was there, and I got to hear a lot about Hearts with a Mission. Then when I came up here, I did find a job in sales, but it really wasn't where I desired to be. And so I just called up Kevin Lamson, who's our chief executive officer here. He's the executive director of Hearts. And I just introduced myself and told him about Daren and our encounter we had in Southern California, and told him, hey, I'd just love to be in something ministry related, and maybe there's something we can talk about. So we talked for like 4 months, and actually they created this position. So my position is actually services coordinator. I oversee all the volunteers. I onboard all of our volunteers, and I'm involved heavily with the Safe Family side of things, which we'll talk about more in the interview. And then Kevin and a couple of the other administrative staff here interviewed me a few times and decided to hire me for this position. And wow, what God has done with this has been really great. I'm super excited about Hearts with a Mission and Safe Families for Children and what we're doing here in Jackson and Josephine counties and Lincoln counties in Oregon. And God's hand has been in it completely. And I'm surely looking forward to what he's going to continue to do with me and with Hearts with a Mission. So I'm excited about it.
That's great. And I know that I've heard you speak before, and obviously we try and keep up to date with everything that Hearts with a Mission are doing. But for the majority of people, if they've heard the name, perhaps they know about the shelter and that kind of thing, but are unaware of all the other things you're involved in. So if you could just give us an overview of the work of Hearts with a Mission, that would be really helpful to people, I think.
Sure. So as you know, Hearts with a Mission is basically we're a homeless shelter for at-risk, runaway, or youth in crisis that are from the ages of 10 to 17. That's how Hearts of the Mission got started. And so in 2009, we opened our first shelter here in Medford on Edwards Street for 10 to 17-year-olds. And now we have a shelter also in Grants Pass for 10 to 17-year-olds. And so those are the two main focuses of Hearts of the Mission. And one of the things that Hearts did in the midst of sheltering youth between the ages of 10 and 17 is we found that as great as we are at taking care of the youth and making this as homey as we possibly can inside the shelter, it's still a shelter, and it's still not quite the home life, no matter how hard we try, even the love that we pour out on the kids and stuff. And so if they've been here like 6 months or more, they start to really long for that home setting. And so Safe Families, that's where Safe Families for Children came in to play. In 2014, we decided that we needed to find an exit strategy for the youth that were going to be here that long in our shelter. And so what we did is we found Safe Families for Children, and we kind of partnered with them, and we started finding churches, partnering with churches that would be willing to help us find host families inside their congregations, and they would voluntarily be willing to take in a youth and shelter them in their home until we could find a way to reunite them back with their biological families. And so that's another ministry of Hearts of the Mission. Hearts of the Mission is the implementer of Safe Families for Children right here in Jackson, Josephine, and Lincoln counties. And just a small statistic, in the last year, Safe Families for Children, we hosted 89 hostings that happened in the last calendar year, our fiscal year, which is July 1 to June 30th. So July 1 of 2019 to June 30th of 2020, we hosted 89 youth in homes. And of those 89 youths that we hosted, 92% of them were reunited back to their biological families. Wow. Wow. And so it's a really great statistic. So Hearts has the shelters where we're able to shelter kids and provide a safe place for them to be, but kids that need longer sheltering or more of a home life to be able to thrive, we find host families for them through Safe Families for Children. And we partner with through the 3 counties, we partner with about 18 churches in the 3 counties that help us find host homes and provide circle of support for those hostings that we actually do. We also have recently we built a brand new shelter here in Medford that our 10 to 17s moved into in December. We opened that up. The old shelter that the youth were in is right next door. And so we took that shelter and renovated it a little bit, and then we have reopened it. It's our TLP shelter, and that stands for Transitional Living Plan. And what it's for is for 18 to 22-year-olds. And basically it's for youth that probably have spent time in foster care, and when they turn 18, they age out and they have nowhere to go, and they're really not ready to face life yet. And so we're providing a place for them to come and spend 1 or 2 years in our program, where we work with them on life skills and things like that to prepare them to get out into the world and do life on their own. Teach them how to fill out a job application, how to write a cover letter, how to cook meals, how to write a budget for themselves and things like that, so that they can face life head on and be prepared to do that. And then also our 4th program that we have is our TLP program, and that stands for Transitional Living Plan. And our ILP program, that stands for Independent Living Plan. And so I know you got TLP, ILP, they're a little bit confusing, but ILP is for 16 to 18-year-olds that are actually wards of the state that are living in foster care right now. We actually work with those youth kind of to do the same thing we're doing in the TLP program, and that's to try to help them prepare for when they do have to exit the foster care program. And by the time they turn 18, hopefully we've worked with them for 2 years. We've taught them how to budget, how to fill out a job application, how to write a cover letter, how to cook, how to repair their car, put oil in it, or what things that they need to do for regular life, just to live regular life lessons. And so we work with those kids for hopefully 2 years in the ILP program. And when they're turn 18, they are ready to face life or move on to that next stage that they need to. And those are the four major programs that we have under Hearts with a Mission. So it's not just the 2 shelters anymore. It's also Safe Families for Children, which is a really big part of our package that we use, and then the ILP and TLP programs. Yeah. And so those are the great ways that we are able to just reach into kids' lives. And in the midst of that, have the ability to share the gospel message with these kids. Have the ability to live that out. It's not something that we can force on the kids, but all of our employees, because we are a faith-based organization, pretty much all of our employees have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and they live that relationship out right before the kids on a daily basis, right here at Hearts with a Mission and through the Safe Families program and the ILP and TLP programs. One of the great things is that for you today is we have a great video that I think really plays this out amongst you. It can actually explain it a little bit better and put eyes and ears to what actually happens on a day-to-day basis that we can play for you right now in our interview.
Okay, excellent. Here comes the video.
Before Hearts with a Mission existed, our answer to kids that were seeking help was handing them sleeping bags. And they're worth investing in. You know, the pain, the suffering, the abuse that goes on inside of these kids' lives, you know, that's why we do what we do. That's why I get to be a voice that stands up in front of people and says, we need your help. Because I believe that much. It's going to make our community that much stronger as a whole if we invest in our youth, because really they are our future.
I wish that there was some way I could put into words the transformation that happens when kids come to Hearts with a Mission. And it's probably the most powerful thing to see when a young person starts to accept that their life has value and purpose.
And seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and brought.
Things were really complicated and rough at home, and my parents decided we needed a break from each other, so they found Hearts, and it was kind of a mutual agreement that I should go there for a while.
The support was great, to be able to know that somebody cares and that somebody wants the best for you, which I didn't really have that growing up.
I knew there was going to be dinner at the shelter even if I didn't go get it, and I knew that I was going to have clothes to wear even if I wasn't the one getting them, and I knew that my laundry was going to be done and I had a clean place to shower, and I knew that if I needed help with a math problem, I was going to have someone to help me, and it wasn't just going to be me all the time. It had been me, just me, for a very long time.
For me personally, it's been a shelter that's been more than just a bed and a pillow. It's been friends and it's been family that's helped me when I didn't have anybody else to go to.
I can't put into words the gratitude because it really did change my life. It saved it, if I could say that.
And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well. It is well.
In all honesty, I was scared that I was going to lose my son to a foster home. How I heard about Hearts with a Mission was through child welfare. They said that Hearts with a Mission could possibly help us out with our son because we had no other options. And next thing I knew, we were involved with Hearts with a Mission. If it wasn't for them, I don't know where he would be.
From the time I was 12 until I was 18, I was my own parent. I paid my own bills. I actually would steal my mom's check from the government, and I would use it to get groceries for me and my little sister. And I would steal clothes, and I would make sure that she had school supplies. And I didn't realize that it wasn't something that I didn't have to do. I thought that was just life. That was just how it goes. I had moved around so much that I was able to pack up all of my belongings in a 15-minute time period and be able to go. No matter where I was at, no matter how long I had been there, if I needed to go, I was gone. And I remember there was just miscommunication, and I was certain that they were going to kick me out. And Patty came upstairs to just talk to me about it, and I was packing my things, and she just burst into tears because she never dealt with a kid who was just so ready to go. Having an unconditional family like that was the first time I've ever experienced that. They still don't want me to leave. I'm not scared anymore to have a family, and I'm not scared anymore to settle in, and I've actually started putting things on my bedroom wall and being comfortable being in a family again. I haven't had that since I was 12 years old. I didn't even know I was missing anything until I moved in there. We're not normal kids, but we can be. We can be just as normal as everyone else, but every once in a while you're going to see a little glimmer of what's different.
Together we will run.
This is definitely the best time of my life.
Well, that certainly helps us to fully comprehend what you're saying there, Bill. And what I observe through what you've said, with video conversations I've had with various people over the last few years, even, is that lives are being changed physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You know, and that's huge. And we're glad to be alongside you in that as a church family, and hopefully our help along with those other churches has really made a difference. How would you see that support has made a difference?
Well, so without churches and volunteers, Hearts with a Mission we just wouldn't be able to function. And so we really rely heavily on those people that are supporting us outside of our ministries just like yours at Jacksonville Presbyterian. And I know that you guys support us financially, and that's one of the ways that we just can't survive unless we have ministries that are willing to support us financially, because we're a 50c3 corporation, and then the way we survive is through grants and donations and ministries just like yours that think that it's important enough to reach out into our community and support things like this. So that's one of the great ways that people partner with us, is financially. But not just that, I know we've had several people from your congregation that have gone through our volunteer onboarding process and have volunteered here at Hearts with a Mission and come alongside of us in that way. And it's just a great way to be able to reach out and mentor young people. Just have the opportunity to rub shoulders with our staff and then be involved in the young people's lives here. That just some of the stories, it's really hard to fathom the things that kids go through, even the ages of 10 that walk inside of our shelter, or 14. Like I had a 14-year-old one time that was in our shelter, and we were talking. He told me he went into the foster care system when he was 5, and by the time he was 14, he had been in 44 foster homes by the time he was 14 years old. And to have people like from your ministry that come in and want to just sit and listen and talk with these young people and build relationship when they don't really understand what real relationship looks like. You and I understand relationship because first of all, we have a relationship with Jesus Christ, right? And that relationship is an eternal relationship. It's never going to stop. It's never going to change. It's always going to be there. God's always existed in relationship, right? Yep. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Absolutely. He's always been there in relationship. And so relationship's super important to him. And that's one of the things that we do at Hearts. And the people that have come alongside us from your ministry have been really good at just building relationships with the young people here and teaching them what relationship is all about. And if we get the opportunity to share the gospel in the midst of that, wow, how much more powerful is that?
Definitely. It's the, and part of it is just providing that consistency in a kid's life and being there. And yeah, it's wonderful. And we all need it in our own lives as well. I mean, that's the thing. We don't do it for the blessings it brings, but it sure does bring them. So I would just encourage people, if you're watching this and this is something that's pulling on your heart, get in touch with Hearts with a Mission and go through the process and get involved. We can't ignore the fact that as we record this, we're living in a COVID world, in a global pandemic. And I'm sure, as I know, it goes without saying that has had an effect. But how has that affected the ministry there? Positive, negative, challenges, blessings, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's certainly affected our ministry here, and it's affected the way we have to do things. It's affected our volunteer ministry in a huge way. Unfortunately, in some ways that are negative, and we are hoping for the end of COVID so that we can rectify that. Mm-hmm. But in the midst of that, we've seen God just really work in some really powerful ways in the midst of COVID right here at Hearts with a Mission. And he's done that in lots of ways. First of all, financially, people have just really in the midst of this time have really stepped up to the plate, and God has prompted them to still continue to give and pour out their blessing upon Hearts with a Mission. And so we're really thankful for that. Secondly, those that I have lots of people that are still calling me, wanting to volunteer, even in the midst of the COVID crisis, and not really being over nervous about how it's going to affect their health right out of the gate, even though they're taking that into consideration. We're being smart about it. But they still want to reach out and find a way to serve. And so we're trying to come up with creative ways for people to still serve us here at Hearts, and we've been able to do that. One of the things that has really thrived during our time of COVID here at Hearts is our meal program. So our kids in the evening, so all of our breakfast and lunch meals, Hearts provides that with help through the state, because we do have kids that are wards of the state that are in residency sometimes at Hearts. And so we have the breakfast and lunch meals pretty much taken care of, but all of our evening meals have traditionally been provided by volunteers. And so what we have a program where people are willing to sign up once a month. They're willing to commit to bring a meal to our youth once a month. When COVID came, we had to figure out, okay, well, how are we going to do this now? We're worried about the transmission and how that's all going to work. So at first, we had to put stipulations in, like the meal couldn't be home cooked. It had to be actually store-bought and packaged and brought here, and we would be able to cook it inside the shelter that way. Or we were allowing people to bring meals that were like takeout. They could go to one of the local restaurants and still support our local community by going to a restaurant and purchasing a meal that was takeout that they could bring to us and drop off from a takeout, any restaurant that was willing to do takeout. And we didn't have one of our donors drop off. They were all willing to stick with the plan and decide to do it the way that we needed to do it. And some of it, we've had the fire department and the police department have brought meals to us at lunchtime and just decided to bless us that way. We've had lots of people step up in the midst of COVID because they realized that our youth are not going out for the day to school and then coming back. They're here 24/7 at the shelter. We're having to find creative ways to keep them interested and involved and not bored and still do their schoolwork and things like that in the midst of it. And because of our volunteers and the way they're still stepping up to the plate, we've been still able to accomplish that and keep our kids interested and continue to thrive in the midst of living life in the shelter.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. So obviously in the short term, it's kind of pivoting and adapting to be able to carry on doing what you're doing. What are your thoughts where the Lord is leading in the short and the longer term when it comes to Hearts with a Mission?
Well, in the short term, we're still continuing to find creative ways to challenge the youth inside of the shelter. We're still needing all those helps that we have already that have been taking place and are continuing to take place. We still need that to continue to happen. In the long term, we're really planning for the long term, because we feel like the long term, it's a little bit unknown, but we feel like there could be a real need that just breaks open when we finally open everything up, when we stop any type of sheltering in place, or the businesses and things are and the kids go back to school environment. We feel that there's going to be lots of referrals and calls that come to us that have been hidden in the midst of COVID, because normal people that would report things that are taking place aren't being reported, because the kids are not out, they're sheltered in still, and so we feel like there's going to be a really great need. So one of the things that we're doing is we're coming up with creative ways to continue to build our volunteer base. With Hearts with a Mission and with Safe Families for Children, which is one of the big parts of Hearts with a Mission's ministry, is Safe Families. We really feel like that's going to be a major role where Safe Families is just going to continue to grow. And the bigger that we build our volunteer base, the more people in the valley that we're going to be able to help and provide for. The Safe Families program is continuing to provide for those youth that we're trying desperately to stop from falling into the state system. That's really what it's all about. So we're intervening ahead of time so that we can help the family become healthy to the ways that they're able to take care of their families, but also have supports. Once we've built a safe family hosting and we put a circle of support in, once we reunite them back to the family is no longer now in a place where they have nobody to turn to when they have a crisis. Right. The problem is the families that we support through Safe Families and Hearts with a Mission, a lot of times are orphans themselves, not the kids. We're talking about the parents. They're orphans because they have no circle of support. They have nobody to turn to if they have a crisis. And so the more that we can build these circles of supports around these people, and the more people that they can put in their life, and the more people they have to turn to, the less opportunity they're going to have to fall into the state system and be able to keep their family intact, which is what we believe God desires. God desires our families to be intact. Mom, dad, children intact and thriving and doing well. And we can do that by surrounding them with the circles of support and the volunteers that we need. And we think building that strong in this time of COVID. So when COVID ends, we're already ready to hit the street running. And we're not in that, oh, we just don't have enough help now. But we'll be ready to support that. That's what we're hoping for in the midst of COVID.
Wonderful. Well, I was going to ask, how we can participate, but it sounds like that's the major way. Obviously we're going to pray. That's the most important. But hey, if you're watching this, volunteers, it sounds like there's a real need to be prepared for this coming up. So you can use this time where you perhaps got a bit more time on your hands to get ready. So Bill, is there anything else that we can be prepared to participate in the meantime?
There is one program that we're launching through Safe Families. It's called Safe Families Plus, and we're getting ready to launch it literally like within this week. And what it is we are wanting to build a mentorship program. So this is not necessarily hosting. This is a mentorship program for youth that are between the ages of 16 and 20 years old, that we're trying to match mentors with mentees. And so we already have, because of our ILP program and our TLP program, kids that are in foster care right now that are in need of host or for people, those that are willing to mentor. And we have about 15 youth right now at this moment that we could match a mentor up with if people were willing. And so we're starting this program where we're going to enlist volunteer mentors. And what we're asking for in the commitment is 3 touches a month. 2 of them maybe face-to-face. The other one could be a phone call or a text message or something like that, where they're reaching out and having a touch with the youth. But we have in the midst of that a complete training program where somebody can go through a mentorship training program. It's a great program. It can be done mostly online through their own. Safe Families put together a nice little mentorship training program for people. And I think it's well worth the time for people to go through. And then once that's done, we have an application that the mentee and the mentor will fill out, which helps us match the 2 together. And then this matching program, we're going to do our best to find those that have the most in common to be able to match together. And we're asking for a 1-year commitment. So 1 year, 3 touches a month commitment. And in the end, I mean, if that mentorship really takes off, let's face it, after 1 year, it doesn't have to end. That's up to the mentor and the mentee to continue to build on that relationship. And hopefully they've built a great relationship that'll last a lifetime, not a year, but a lifetime or eternity. And obviously that gives us a chance to present the gospel message, or live the gospel out before the mentee, you know, all those ways that we can reach out to the youth. And that's a new program that we're starting. So that's one of the ways that somebody at your church could get involved through our mentorship program.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I'm sure there are people watching this and people I can think of and, you know, approach for that program. So let's hope that happens for us and for you guys. Do you have any specific, we talked a lot, there's lots of meat there for prayer, but is there any specific prayer requests as I prepare to pray for us and wrap us up here?
Yeah, there's 3 quick prayer requests that I would share with you. One is you can continue to pray for the youth that we're currently serving right now across all of our programs, and those God would bring into our care in the future. Ones that aren't here yet, but we'd be praying for those that will come. Secondly, that prayer for launching our Safe Families Plus program, that God would bring those that are interested in being involved in that through volunteer mentorship and the mentees to be able to match them up with. And then finally, prayer for our creative changes to our fundraising that's having to happen, because normally fundraising is one of the big ways that we support ourselves. And because of COVID, we can't have these large meetings in place. And so we're having to find creative ways to fundraise. And one of the things that we do is we have an actual annual live auction that we do every year. It's our biggest fundraiser, and we're not able to do that in person this year the way that we normally would. So we're trying to find creative online ways that we're going to be able to make the auction happen. So if people could be praying for just how that all comes together and that people would still participate, even though we're doing it online and through virtual methods, and that God would still continue to provide. And we're trusting that He will, but we definitely want to enlist prayer for that. Those are 3 ways that you can pray for us.
Great. I will do that in just a minute, but I want to give you an opportunity, Bill. Is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
I would just say this: our gratitude to Jacksonville Presbyterian, for your congregation, for their faithfulness to demonstrate your love for God. I think that's being demonstrated the way you reach out to Hearts with a Mission. Your love for God's people, which is what God desires to do. Love Him and love people, right? And you guys are demonstrating that by your obedience to serve others, and you're serving us. So I just want to say thank you to your congregation for everything that you guys do to support Hearts with a Mission, Safe Families for Children, and all of our programs. We're really grateful to you, and we're really grateful for your testimony and how you guys love and serve God.
Well, we're just thankful to be able to have a great partnership with you guys who are there on the front line, and we really feel that we can support you in this incredibly important ministry. And yeah, as I say, we've got personal examples of the effect that it's had on people's lives, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So this is really tangible, and here, right here in the valley, people. So I just want to encourage everybody watching this, whenever it is, whether it's a week from today or a month or a year, you know, because once things are on the internet, they're on the internet, right? So, you know, whenever you're watching this, this is an important ministry, and it really makes a huge, huge difference and an impact. So thank you, Bill, and everybody at Hearts with a Mission. Let's just pray together. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for Hearts with a Mission, just that you have a heart for your people, for your children, for your creation. And we think of all of these young and not quite so young people, that lives are changed, Lord. They're changed for the better as we put them in touch with each other, and more importantly, with you. I would pray for all the staff, all the volunteers, and Lord, I pray for those specific prayer requests that Bill had, that all the youth that are currently being served. It's been a very different environment over the last few months, but Lord, there are blessings out of that, and I pray that you will reveal yourself in that, and that you are preparing Hearts to receive more young people as we see the need expanding as well. And then as they launch Families, say Families Plus, that there would be those who would love to be mentors, and that those matching up processes would do really, really well, that people would be matched with people, with young people, that they would, as Bill said, would make friendships and relationships that wouldn't just last, you know, a year or even 2 years, but a whole lifetime, and make a difference. We can think in our own lives of those who have spent time, who have poured energy into us out of their love of you, into us, and would people reach out and do that? And just as well for the fundraising, as it goes online, as it is different, that people will continue to see the need to support ministries like Hearts that make a difference and reach out in your love. Lord, you have all of these resources. Would you open them out to us so that we may bless others as well? We thank you and we love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Pastor Richard. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to see you.
Mm-hmm.